October 2022, a weather event hits Tasmania. A huge rain band sweeps down over Australia's southeast and ends on Tasmania's north and northwest. We'll take you through how it unfolded. On Wednesday, authorities issue serious alerts. This system is comparable to 2016, when the same northwest region was devastated. 3 lives were lost back then. On Thursday, the rain comes, just as predicted. The main concern, the Mersey River. A flooding threat bears down on Latrobe. What looked like this turns into this. Will Murray reported from the town on Thursday night.
There is an evacuate now order for communities along both the Mersey River and the Meander River. And we're here in Latrobe and we're seeing a lot of flashing lights around the place. We've got volunteers from the fire brigades, we've just seen police stopping people on the bridge, and we've just seen teams of SES crews going door to door to make sure people have got that message. And Guy, they're not mucking around. There is a serious alert for people living in Latrobe. A normally peaceful stream turned into a powerful torrent in the small community of Railton in Tasmania's northwest. Intense overnight rain continuing into the day, pouring more into an already strained river system. Residents watching anxiously as the floodwaters rise.
This is my backyard. Well, it was my backyard. Floodwaters came up pretty quickly.
Locals mobilised.
Got a knock on the door at 8:10 from SES to prepare for evacuation. We've got 3 stormwater drains in Gibbon Streets blocked up, which now our garage is flooded.
In Liffey, 5 people living in 2 buses needed rescuing.
They involved both Surf Life Saving Tasmania and Tasmania Police personnel, and they've all been rescued and recovered very safely.
A stream flows through the doors of Wings Wildlife Park at Gunns Plains. They think some animals may have been lost. With the 2016 floods in mind, all eyes are on rising river levels.
We stuck a stick in the water there and it's risen 2 inches in 15 minutes, so it's coming up pretty quickly.
This afternoon, residents in Latrobe were on high alert.
I'm very concerned. To see the river rise in the last few hours is just unreal.
Oh, I'm anxious. I've been through it before. It wasn't pleasant then.
But sandbags have been hard to come by.
I paid for the bags, I paid for the sand.
This is the Mersey River, which broke its banks earlier this afternoon, is now fast approaching major flood levels. It's not only sending a huge volume of water downstream, but also huge amounts of debris. The caravan park has had to be evacuated.
We're definitely going to be flooded this evening, and then I'll sit it out tonight and see where the floodwaters end up.
Lachlan Bennett reported from Devonport, where flooding caused major disruption to the main ferry link to Melbourne.
Normally at this time of evening we would see the Spirit of Tasmania just behind me getting ready to sail to Victoria, but of course the Port of Devonport has been closed since midday and all commercial shipping has been suspended indefinitely.
A lot of locals still have vivid memories of the deadly 2016 floods that hit the region. Lachlan Bennett takes us through the community response.
Lessons have been learnt since the 2016 floods and preparations began yesterday.
That's our stage upside down on the rubbish bins.
The main hall at the Deloraine showgrounds has only just been rebuilt since the last inundation. This time, electrical equipment has been moved to higher ground.
We didn't want that to happen again.
3 people lost their lives in the last flood.
We can get through this without any loss of life if everybody will follow the guidance that's being provided.
A sign promoting a new flood levy at Latrobe sits in rising water. The project is still 6 months away from completion.
My hope was that the flood levy would be built before this event. We're going to work as hard as we can, as we have done over the last 6 years, to deliver that protection.
But this time around, authorities are still confident they are better equipped and prepared.
Now, today, thanks to the efforts that have been put in since 2016, they have their stock on higher ground. They are moving machinery to higher ground, and we won't be, hopefully, rescuing people off rooftops.
Rural roads have been covered in floodwaters, cutting some farmers off from their properties. And locals say already the water here is higher than during the 2016 floods.
We're now stuck, and we've got a 10-month-old baby we've got to get to.
But while the rainfall is expected to ease tomorrow morning, the rivers will continue to rise for days to come.
We're starting to come into the hours of darkness. Don't be complacent and think that the rain event's finished. It hasn't. We're only about halfway through it.
It was an anxious night for residents in northern Tasmania as they waited to see just how high water levels would go. A new threat emerged along another river system, the Meander. In Deloraine, the river goes right through the middle of town. It became a torrent. Lucy MacDonald reported from Deloraine on the Friday night.
The river is very dangerous. It's strewn with debris, particularly timber from a nearby sawmill, and it's moving rapidly. We even just saw a large crate sort of speed past us out and under the bridge. Now, the extent of the flooding has taken many of the locals by surprise, with even long-term residents saying they've never seen anything like it. Here's how the town has been affected. Floodwaters carve through the centre of a town. The muddy Meander River has broken its banks and swamped Deloraine. Roads have been cut, footbridges mangled, and houses full of furniture close to being submerged. The occupants of a four-wheel drive had to be rescued this morning.
The helicopter was deployed but couldn't actually reach them because of the power lines, so they had to be rescued by search and rescue.
Many in the town had prepared, but were not expecting water levels to surpass the last big flood.
Putting sandbags at all the entrances to the club above the 2016 level, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
With the local football club inundated and its goalposts deep in water, a move to higher ground is being reconsidered.
We can't keep on having this happen. It's been twice in 6 years.
Familiar features of the town are sitting in river water, and while some homes have borne the brunt of the flooding, others have just managed to stay dry.
The water's come right up to the back doorstep around the corner there, so we're a bit concerned, but they tell us now that the river's peaked at 4.5 metres, so won't go inside the house, so it's a good thing.
Behind me you can see a shipping container which was secured by a surf life-saving rescue crew. There's some concern it could break free and damage the bridge, essentially splitting the town in two. For now, though, the township is waiting for waters to recede so the clean-up can start.
All the walls will have to be rewashed and the whole thing, and all the toilets and bathrooms and all the storerooms. That'll all have to be done yet.
Many days and months of work ahead. Lucy MacDonald, ABC News, Deloraine.
Back in Latrobe, locals were closely watching the Mersey River. Monty Bovell was there.
This is what Latrobe residents woke up to this morning. The rain had stopped, but front yards were flooded, streets turned into rivers. The town's new feature, rushing river rapids. It's perfect weather for ducks, but not for the several hundreds of people displaced.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see the flower of the neighbour?
This young family left their home last night when the lawn wasn't underwater.
We didn't see any reason to stay with the house when we've got children. We just wanted to get out and be safe.
This time around there was more warning, but no less frustration over a lack of infrastructure to deal with it. A levee still 6 months from completion.
Sat on their hands and done nothing. Makes me wild.
We're happy to continue to support the council in that important work. But it's far too early for any blame-making or pointing fingers.
Residents like Mel have taken things into their own hands since the 2016 event, and they're glad they did.
Yes, it didn't get to where it did in 2016 so far, but it certainly would have got through our bluestone foundation.
In an industrial zone in Burnie, roads were inundated, with debris causing a hazard. And not too far away, at a wildlife park in the northwest, floodwaters mean staff are still unable to reach the animals.
There will be loss. We've just got to get to those animals and see where they are and, hopefully we can get back.
This morning, this street in Latrobe looked more like a river. By early afternoon, much of the water has subsided. It's welcome relief for locals who now are turning their attention to the cleanup.
We don't know the condition of all of these roads that have been closed. We know that there are bridges that have been lost and impacted. The public really need to treat this event as ongoing and make good decisions.
Authorities are warning that receding flood levels might be fleeting. Tides could influence just how long it takes for this emergency to subside.
Flooding wasn't the only concern in this weather event, as Liz Gwynn found out.
It has taken out a major asset that Tas Networks heavily relies on. So just after 10 o'clock this morning, that mud and debris actually took out a main transmission line out of service. So the 220,000 volt line runs between Watamana and Palmerston, but fortunately a smaller transmission line remains in service, and Tas Network is very confident that they'll be able to maintain supply to all Tasmanian customers.
All that water from the deluge needed somewhere to go, and several river systems converge in Launceston. Lachlan Bennett brought us the details.
There's still plenty of water filtering through our catchments, and you can see those torrents and some of the debris they carry behind me where the two esks clash. And then if we head back into town, there were 17 residents of the flood-prone suburb of Newstead which were advised to evacuate. Now, some of those actually did come back to their homes today to assess the damage, but they're really unlikely to stay overnight until the risk of flooding is completely gone. And when that finally does happen, for them and many people across the northwest, that's when the hard clean-up effort begins.
Going into the weekend, the flood threat was beginning to ease. That gave locals the chance to go back to their homes and businesses. As our reporter Lucy MacDonald witnessed, what some found was devastating.
Waking up to a new reality. The rivers that tore through towns across northwest Tasmania are receding, but the clean-up is only just beginning.
We heard this bubbling sound, and water was literally just bubbling all the way along the perimeter of this room, and then the floorboards just started flicking up and flying up as the water came underneath.
Jennifer Davies and her partner Craig own the old mill in Deloraine. At the height of the floods, the water in their house reached 2 feet.
We couldn't do anything, we just had to watch, and then it just all came through the kitchen and continued to go through up to knee height.
Especially that on that side.
The neighbouring Hobby family moved into this house last year. The previous owners raised it after the 2016 floods, but it was still inundated with water.
A complete mess, disaster area. It looks as just the amount of water went through there was unbelievable, and it's like it's gone inside, destroyed basically all our stuff.
Now they're worried they'll have nowhere to go.
We don't even know if that's safe enough to go back into or not, because
I think it'll have to be condemned. It was that badly damaged.
40 minutes up the road in Latrobe, things aren't much better. Ross Bramich's house was damaged in the 2016 floods. Now he'll have to start again.
Oh, it's pretty devastating. Like, you come home, everything you work for's here, so you come home and see all this, it's like, shit, here we go again.
While the clean-up will be a massive job, with full flood coverage, he's feeling okay.
I've lived here my whole life, I know nothing different, so I'm just going to keep rocking up and keep living here, and yeah, we'll just keep going again. If it floods tomorrow, we'll go again. So yeah, it's just the Aussie spirit, I suppose. You just keep going.
Travel around Latrobe is still limited. The bridge is closed and roads have been smashed up or swept away.
The damage from this event is significant. We're gathering data in regard to the loss of bridges, significant damage to roads.
It's the damaged infrastructure that is now posing the greatest risk.
I've actually heard similar situations where people are going round the signs because they think it's clear, and then finding when they get in there that there's enormous ruts between the bridge structure and the road where it's been washed away. So it's not safe.
It's not yet known how many houses have been flooded.
We expect that the likely number of homes that have actually been flooded to be far fewer than that 500.
This time, though, that number doesn't include Latrobe resident Lance Lunson, whose house was badly flooded in 2016.
We had two choices: move out, pull it down and build again, or restore the old house.
They painstakingly rebuilt the heritage house and lifted it up 750 millimetres.
Well, that was a good decision.
With roads closed across the northwest, some residents are still waiting to get home to assess the damage. The scars and those carved into the landscape will take a long time to mend.
By Sunday, it was known that in some areas flooding had eclipsed the 2016 flood event. Thankfully, this time, no lives had been lost. But locals are left questioning, should they rebuild?
It's just a heartbreak when you open those doors and you see your business in a foot of sludge and everything that you've worked so hard for. Pretty much in a way that I couldn't have even imagined.
For the past few days, Tamika Bannister has been worried this might be the end of her business. She now says she'll carry on, but plans to relocate.
Do I think we can ever set up back here again? I just think the devastation's too much for us.
In Deloraine, timber from the nearby sawmill is strewn throughout the Meander River. They prepared for the flood, but it wasn't enough.
Well, we've just been totally wiped out. Everything's just far exceeded what we thought was the levels we're going to go to.
They're estimating the cost will be around $250,000.
You aren't able to get flood insurance for this site. So we're completely on our own.
Over the road, the local pony club is working hard to get the clubhouse back in shape.
We've put a piece of tape on the wall to mark where the flood water got to. Unfortunately, it was a lot higher than we were expecting.
Despite significant losses, they're optimistic.
We'll build, rebuild, we'll rally. This is for our kids.
While the level of the floods took many by surprise, there's no doubt the warning helped.
The preparation, the communication and the emergency response has undoubtedly saved the lives of Tasmanians so far.
But between ripped up roads and high river levels, the danger is far from over.
We have river levels that are still very, very high, dangerously high. And we are in still an unpredictable weather pattern.
While the clean-up continues and the full financial impact of these floods is yet to be tallied, the Premier says there'll be government support, not just for families unable to return to their homes, but for businesses to help them get back on their feet.
We are here to support you, we are with you, and we will stand by you as you lean into your recovery over the course of the next days, weeks and months.
In the end, more than 50 homes have been damaged or destroyed. 20 businesses and 20 community buildings have also been hit. Roads and bridges have been left in a mess, leaving a long clean-up effort ahead for the communities of northern Tasmania.